Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice is an incredible journey pieced together by a beautiful, dark world, creative puzzles, action, and a unique and gripping storyline heightened by Hellblade's excellent sound design.
It's breathing. It's breathing. He knows she's getting closer. He can feel her coming closer. She's getting closer. They're watching. They're watching.
Hellblade is the newest title from developer Ninja Theory, released as an independent AAA game. Basically, they wanted to put a AAA production into a shorter game for the price of a AA game. For the US, it's $30, and for myself, that's $40 Canadian. After playing through the story of Senua and uncovering what haunts her, I felt extremely satisfied with the overall experience, and I hope that other developers consider creating more independent AAA titles in the near future. Hellblade is a stunning game to look at. I played using a regular PS4, which runs the game at 1080p 30 frames per second. I know that there are some enhancements for the PS4 Pro that bring the game up to 60 frames, and on PC, this is also the case. However, I cannot express enough how well this game comes together with its set pieces, weather effects, general environments, character design, and animations at the base level hardware. The world of Hellblade is largely grim and dark, but within its darkness is a great deal of detail. The brief moments of color and joy in Senua's journey feel rewarding and carried strong emotions, which added to the immersion I experienced. Although the levels are linear, there is a good range of openness felt from the environments you explore throughout the game. With the length of the title, I came in expecting to be spending a lot of time in the similar environments, which to a degree is true, but each new area still feels fresh and exciting to explore.
Something so very ordinary, inevitable. It's as if we conspire to hide death.
Senua herself is an excellently designed character. Her body language and facial animations show such deep emotion that I couldn't help but feel myself. Developer Ninja Theory adds further to this game with its incredible sound design.
And now it has taken hold. It will spread towards her head, the seat of the soul, until there is nothing left of her.
Before the game begins, you'll receive two notifications. The first is a warning for those who may be experiencing mental health issues, and the second is a recommendation to use surround sound headphones. This is because, for the majority of the game, Senua is battling with psychosis, and you will be constantly hearing voices in your head, and these are usually not pleasant ones. These sounds are at times very intense and project many voices at different pitches, volumes, and placements throughout your sound device. These made me feel uneasy and often a little terrified, but this is true to Senua's personal experience. In the early credits, you will see listed consultants that Ninja Theory worked with to ensure that they are accurately portraying someone who is battling with psychosis. You can tell Ninja Theory really did their research on this mental health issue, and it's likely that this has been the best execution of mental health that we've seen in video games to date.
We told you it was a trick.
In addition, combat in Hellblade is smooth, and the interesting choice of camera angle adds almost another layer of strategy needed to be taken when facing multiple enemies. Throughout my time, I did experience frame drops, one fairly lengthy game freeze, and some odd animations, or lack thereof. For example, low-hanging wind chimes are stiff and don't have any physics-based system attached to them when you run into them. This is a very small nitpicky issue, mind you, but it did take away from the immersion I experienced during that level. It is important to take notes of these issues, but in the end, I found that these hardly hindered my overall experience with the game. Hellblade, as mentioned before, follows Senua, a warrior battling with psychosis who journeys to Hell, to find and save the soul of her loved Dillion. Her journey begins in the land of mist and fog, where she must face a series of trials before entering into the gates of Helheim. Her tale is plagued with voices and hallucinations. At almost every moment, it feels as there is some constant story development as her psychosis uncovers more about Senua's past and her character development.
What is she looking at? What is she leaving behind? I know what she's thinking. I hear her thoughts. It's not too late to get into the boat and go back. No one will judge her. No one will ever know. Oh, she heard us. There's no going back.
In her company, quote unquote, is a man, Druth, who has experienced the world of Helheim and shares his stories to you as you progress through the game. The story of Hellblade is packed full of lore and character depth for an approximately 7 to 9 hour game. I was hooked for the whole game, and I was always eager to continue my playthrough. Hellblade blends well its in-game cutscenes with game activity. I knew the game succeeded in its story because I felt that I too was living Senua's tale, rather than just merely playing it. As much as the story is about Senua saving her beloved, the story becomes more about Senua battling her inner demons. Traversing the land, you'll be told to turn back, or you're being watched. In battle, you'll be told that you are too weak or too slow. In certain trials, you'll have a hard time distinguishing what's real and what is just a projection of your psychosis. All this is unnerving, but yet you know that you have to move forward. I can see you too. There are definitely some mixed opinions on what the game genre is. In many ways, this is more of a puzzle-based action game than an action-based puzzle game. It's hard to tell from the trailers and promotional videos, but Hellblade is full of puzzles. In order to progress through levels, you are usually tasked with finding a symbol or a set of symbols in the environment that match that of the door blocking your progression. The general overview seems repetitive, but Ninja Theory excellently executes new ways to make puzzle solving interesting, whether that be through finding objects in the world, traversing through illusions, or looking through maps that change timelines of the setting you're in. Finding general objects in the world make up the early stage puzzles, and these definitely overdo their stay, but thankfully the progression of puzzle depth kept me interested.
He's in the other one. He's in the other one. He's in the dark one. The dark one.
At designated areas, you will fight various enemies, starting with just a few handful at a time to eventually a few dozen. These enemies lack in overall variety, and within the first few hours of the game you'll have likely experienced each type of general grunt. At first, I found the combat to be fairly basic, with options for light, heavy, and melee attacks. This is in part due to the lack of a HUD, and basically no instruction of how to use your abilities. Hellblade eases you into the combat with the default auto difficulty, which is quite forgiving, giving you ample opportunity to learn the fight mechanics without dying constantly. After my first few fight sequences, I found that there were definite combos that can be executed depending on the order of buttons pressed. In addition, there is a jump/dive variation to the light, heavy, and melee attacks, which can be pretty cool to execute in a sequence of moves. Overall, I found the combat sections, outside of the bosses, to be the game's weakest point. It's not awful by any means, but it will feel repetitive with time. Now, there are a handful of bosses that Senua faces in the game. These are often tense and force you to go beyond what routine moves you might have been using against grunt enemies. With the auto difficulty enabled, I never felt too overpowered or over-challenged by these bosses. These are really fun, and I couldn't have asked for more, save the end boss, which was a little underwhelming. The rest of your time will be spent traversing the mostly linear paths in the level design. A few side paths here and there will lead you to lore stones, which will have Druth tell you stories relating to the current area you are in. These, in my opinion, added a lot to the game's world, and I enjoyed how in certain sections the lore stones will progress a single story as you move through the level. And also, if you're a trophy hunter like myself, finding these stones will be the only task blocking your way from a relatively easy platinum.
Skull to be the ball of the sky, with his brains for clouds.
Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice was a tense and compelling game to play. With the intention of putting AAA production into a shorter game experience, I never felt that this game was incomplete. I left feeling satisfied, and I was surprised in the end at how much detail was put into the approximately 7-hour playthrough I had. The excellently crafted story of Senua's journey, creative gameplay, and presentation surpassed any expectation I would have had for an independent AAA release. I hope that this game succeeds, and that we see more titles like this in the near future.
Challenge me! all your fault.